Hello and welcome to the final leaders debate here on Politics Social. We'll be going straight over to BBC One now for this is it. This is the debate. I'll turn the sound on and everything. Here we go.
In 9 days' time, one of the two men standing here will be Prime Minister.
Yes, it'll be Keir Starmer.
They go head to head.
Won't be this guy.
Welcome to the BBC Prime Ministerial Debate.
Let's go! Woohoo! Put him in the bin. Put him in the bin. It's Rishi Sunak. Put him in the bin. Why are these rhombus shapes attacking people? Oh my god. I'm going to take out number 10 Downing Street. Oh, it wasn't rhombus aliens. It was just a design. It was a design thing. Don't panic, everyone. Let's go!
Welcome to Nottingham and to Nottingham Trent University, our venue for this debate. With the general election just over a week away tonight, Rishi Sunak and Keir Starmer are about to spend the next hour and a quarter answering voters' questions. They are the two contenders for Prime Minister. Their positions on this debate stage have been decided by the
Will it be moderated? That's the question.
They do not know what the questions will be. Those will be coming primarily from our live audience here at the university, who have been chosen by the pollsters' Savanta. They include supporters of the Conservatives and of Labour, as well as some undecided voters. And we will also have questions submitted through the BBC's Your Voice, Your Vote website. After 75 minutes of debate, we will have analysis from our spin room, which is also here on the Nottingham Trent campus. And that is where Laura Koonsberg and Clive Myrie will be talking to other politicians and also to fellow journalists.
Hold me back.
And so, to the leaders, Rishi Sunak
and
Keir Starmer, welcome to you both. It's very good that you're taking part in this with just over
someone shouting outside again.
Day. Welcome. Let us begin straight away with our first question, and it is from Sue Barclay.
Graham the hat. Thanks for that.
People are dismayed by the lack of integrity and honesty in politics today.
In the Tory party.
After the recent allegations about political betting, how would you restore trust in politics?
Come on.
Thank you very much, Sue, for kicking us off. Now, both of your parties have faced allegations in this regard in recent days. We know 5 Conservatives being investigated and 1 Labour. Rishi Sunak.
Well, Sue, I completely share your anger. I was as frustrated as you are furious when I learnt about these allegations. That's why, alongside the Gambling Commission, we initiated our own internal inquiries into what had happened, and as a result of that, have suspended 2 candidates. And I've been crystal clear: anyone who has broken the law, broken the laws,
I think we've had our first bingo card.
I will ensure that they're booted out of the Conservative Party.
Keir Starmer.
So bet on it. Your question, which I think is on a lot of people's minds, this question of respect and integrity in politics. And you have to lead from the front on issues like this.
They need to get rid of the person shouting. It's really off-putting.
Politics has become too much.
I'm the one who shouts around here.
And
I am the one who shouts.
What they can get for themselves. And one of the important choices, and the thing that I would like to do if I'm elected Prime Minister, is
tell everyone your dad was a toolmaker.
So that politics returns to public service. In relation to these gambling
talk about your dad.
The instinct of these people to think the first thing they should do is try to make money was the wrong instinct, and we have to change that. But it is also a question of leadership, because this isn't just what's happened this week, last week in the gambling commission.
It sounds like a demonstration.
Earlier in this Parliament, the Prime Minister himself was convicted and fined for breaking the rules which he brought in and imposed on everybody else. And of course, we've seen what happened with the COVID contracts and the huge amounts of money that were made. This takes leadership. What I did when one of my team was alleged to have been involved and investigated by the Gambling Commission, they were suspended within minutes because I knew it made it really important to be swift. The Prime Minister delayed and delayed and delayed until eventually he was bullied into taking action.
Sunak,
if you're going to change the culture,
let me get a response. Let me get a response, Keir Starmer.
Let him finish.
To those
he was obviously finishing.
Well, it was important to me given the seriousness and the sensitivity of the matters at hand, that they were dealt with properly. And that's what I've done. We had an independent internal inquiry into what happened, have taken action and suspended the candidates involved, and I've been crystal clear that they should face the full consequences of the law. But Keir
I need to change it from absolutely to
leadership
crystal.
and politics. That's what Sue's question was at, was a broad question about how to do that. I also think leadership means being straight with people. It means having the courage of your convictions. Not changing your mind on every single position that you've taken.
Right.
About what you want to do.
What about onshore wind farms? Have you changed your mind about them, Sunak?
He's not being honest with everyone about his plans to raise their taxes.
Right,
I think that will erode
let's
politics.
stick to the heart of the question first of all,
talking about raising taxes.
It was sparked by the recent allegations about political betting, and Sue asked how you would restore trust in politics. So if you
2094 line.
now on those to withdraw support from those two Conservative candidates, what did you find in that investigation?
Well, Michelle, you know there's an independent investigation which is ongoing, which is why
I need a card that says independent investigation.
But when we had our internal inquiries, when we found things that were not appropriate, I took action and suspended the candidates. I've been crystal clear. I was curious to hear about these things. That's why I've dealt with it. But the choice of this election is about, as Sue said, it's about leadership, it's about integrity in politics.
3 times in a row.
And that's a question about doing what you say.
And he just said integrity as well.
Integrity. But the point is, he's changed his mind on every major position that he's taken. He doesn't have the courage of his convictions and is not being straight with everybody now about his plans if he wins power to raise people's taxes. That's not going to do anything to restore trust in politics, and that's a choice for everyone at this election. Continue tax cuts with the Conservatives, or Keir Starmer's tax rises, which he is not being straight with everyone about.
Again, to return to the question, Keir Starmer, the Labour candidate from whom you've withdrawn support, appears to have betted on losing his own election. Do you know if any other candidate has placed similar bets in this campaign?
Well, he was, as you say, investigated by the Gambling Commission because he bet on himself to lose. As soon as the Commission said they were investigating, I suspended him. And I've made very clear to my candidates that I expect high standards in politics. I said last week that the Prime Minister should have taken decisive action. And I said last week, should one of my candidates be investigated by the Commission, then they would be suspended and their feet wouldn't leave the floor. And that's what I did. And so my candidates know I expect the highest standards.
Feet wouldn't touch
the floor.
And
that I'll take decisive action.
Mixing your metaphors there.
I
am action man.
Absolutely determined to return politics to public service.
Do you know that none of your other candidates have placed similar bets?
Integrity.
Do you know that none of your other candidates have placed similar bets?
I don't know.
Well, I've got like 600 of them. My candidates what the standards are, and they've seen by my actions what the consequences are of those standards. But the Prime Minister hides behind a process. He could have taken decisive action last week, even the week before, but he eventually got round to it when he was bullied by other people into doing it. That's not leadership, and he talks about integrity. I'm sorry, when you get convicted for breaking the COVID rules, which you imposed on the rest of the country, you really shouldn't be talking about integrity in politics.
Rishi Sunak?
Well, leadership means being straight with people about what you plan to do. I've set out my plans clearly, and I appreciate, actually, that not everyone's going to agree with me on everything, but at least you know where I stand.
He has a plan.
Now, Keir Starmer is not being straight with you about his plans to raise the taxes. I don't think that's leadership. I don't think that people should surrender their family finances to the Labour Party, and that's the choice for people at this election.
Well, let me just address that, if I may, because we have set out in our manifesto all of our plans. They're fully funded, they're fully costed, and we've set out that we will not be increasing income tax, national insurance or VAT. What the Prime Minister is doing, he's got a manifesto that's got promises to you and everybody watching which are unfunded because his Chancellor has said that the money he's relying on has already been spent. Now that is the mistake that Liz Truss made. That's what cost so many people so much.
I'm going to have to use the beaten fire letters.
And now we've got to repeat.
Liz Truss, she got a mention.
Lots of promises. But where's the money coming from? The Chancellor himself has said the money was spent last year. It isn't available. And if there's 5 more years of this, we're going to have the same as we've got now, a cost of living crisis bearing down on people across this country, really struggling because the economy is broken. And this is the chance at this election to turn the page and start to rebuild our country with a stable economy.
Well, Michelle, just to build on that, what the Chancellor did this morning was ask his opposite number, Keir Starmer's shadow Chancellor, to rule out raising all your taxes beyond what they've already announced in the first budget. And the shadow Chancellor wasn't able to do that today. That's what the Chancellor did today. But you don't have to listen to me. Just go online.
Yeah, we won't.
Go to the Telegraph website, because we've just found a
the Telegraph. Because
that they have put out there
the
from
Telegraph
the Deputy
are really
Chancellor
reliable
from the Labour Party, admitting that their plans will cost hundreds of billions of pounds.
Will it cost
hundreds of billions of pounds?
Will it cost
£2,094?
£2,094
Thousands of pounds of tax rises. That's why I say Keir Starmer and the Labour Party are not being straight with you. So do not surrender to their tax rises.
Let me just explain. This is a reference to Darren Jones, the Shadow Chief Secretary to the Treasury, one of your senior Treasury team, who in a recording given to the Daily Telegraph has said decarbonising the British economy will cost hundreds of billions of pounds.
We've set out in our manifesto what we want to do to go to renewable energy, and we've set out how much that will cost, exactly how much is going to be put in, and we've got a column saying how that's going to be funded. Yes, it is absolutely right
the
that we want
bingo.
to get in investors to come alongside that government money. And we've been
this
talking
shouting is really annoying me.
I
don't know if you can hear it.
2 years to say that if we put down this money set out in our manifesto, will you come alongside it and put down many more billions of pounds so that in partnership with the government we can make the change.
Oh dear, we've got a troll. Starmer protected Jimmy Savile. Savile spelt wrongly. Back off to Russia with you. Bye.
Hundreds of billions. Just be straight with people. How many?
One at a time. One at a time. One at a time.
Is it 400?
One at a
The
time.
Prime Minister must have put a bet on how many times he's going to interrupt me.
I do want to turn to the next question because lots of people are waiting and they've got important questions that they would like answers to.
Thanks very much, Hayes, for the £20 super chat. Independence Day beer tokens. Thank you so much, my Independence Day beer tokens. That's really kind of you. Thank you.
Their freedom of speech. Our next question here comes from Mary Armstrong.
Evening. I've worked 2 jobs since I was 18 and I'm now 60. And I think too many people don't understand
been doing the rest of the
how
time.
important and better it is for you to be working hard.
Oh, because young people don't work hard.
Are on out of work benefits.
Are they?
My question is, what are you going to do to help more people to come off benefits and back into work?
Mary, thank you very much for that. Keir Starmer, what are you going to do to get more
Mary,
people off work, off benefits and into work?
Yeah, can I first agree with you that work is, of course, about pay and being able to pay your own way and, support your family. But it is also about dignity and respect. And my dad worked in a factory all his life. He was a tool maker.
I don't know who it is,
having a secure job for him was really important to his respect and integrity.
It must be really loud
to those
for
that
it
are
to be
out
getting
work.
picked up on
My
their
rule is
mics.
this: if you can work, you should work. And we've got a plan to get people into work, working with businesses to support people in. I think we need to change the job centre and the career service, because at the moment, when I ask businesses, if you have a vacancy, are you going to the job centre to get that vacancy filled? They say they're not, so we need to do that. The other thing, Mary, that we absolutely need to do
about the shouting. Sorry.
is to get the waiting lists.
It's to subscribe to this channel. Subscribe.
Many people aren't
to
able
comment.
to work
Subscribe.
or to work in the way they want because they're waiting for an operation because of the catastrophic level of waiting lists under this government.
So let's hear your first response, Rishi Sunak. To Mary's question, what are you going to do to get people off benefits?
Mary, there's a clear choice for you and everyone who believes like you do the situation isn't right. Because if you want lower taxes and lower welfare, that's what I'll deliver. If you want higher taxes and higher welfare, that's
he
what
said
Keir
the magic
Starmer will do.
word.
So I strongly
He said
agree that
deliver.
people are better off in work. It's not just for the financial security it brings you. It's about the purpose, the dignity that it brings to people. Which
she loves that. Yeah, make them work. Force them to work. Work brings freedom.
On ill health and disability benefits is too high. It's gone up by 800,000 since the pandemic. It's gone up by 60%.
What, just too high? The fact that you earn 120 million a year from your dividends, that's too high.
I set out a comprehensive
How about you earn
plan
120
to reform
quid
the welfare system,
and you give
to
us the
tighten
rest
it
of the
up
money?
so that those who can work do work. We're stricter about those eligibility criteria.
To make disabled people work, to make cancer patients work.
It's better for those people, and that's what I'll do.
But when if you've got cancer, it ain't.
And just again recently, Keir Starmer and the Labour Party opposed every single thing
it was cruel.
that I set out to deliver what you want. Every single thing. They
demonstrative
do not think
cruelty.
that you can save a single penny.
No, actually, it was performative cruelty.
That's what.
And what you're talking now is
performative
bollocks.
If you want lower welfare
you've been
and
clear.
lower
You
taxes,
tighten
14
up
years.
the system.
You had 14 years.
Higher welfare.
You had 14 years.
We actually
Thank you very much, Captain Bart Roberts, toolmaker. Yes, he was. Thank you very much. My dad was a toolmaker.
I've worked all my life.
Did he say toolmaker? I zoned out.
Stop due to illness. Disabled people like me get hit in the worst way when we want to get back to work and help, but often we can't. How will candidates ensure we're not punished by benefit sanctions?
Thank you very much. Rishi Sunak, so you've said you'd tighten the system, you'd be stricter. What does that mean for people like Beverly?
Yeah, sorry, what was I couldn't quite hear. Is it Beverly?
Yeah. Beverly.
Yeah, Beverly.
Couldn't quite hear because all the shouting.
I actually believe in a compassionate welfare system that supports everyone who genuinely needs it. And you saw me do that during COVID, making sure we got support to the most vulnerable. Right? That will always happen under a Conservative government, always happen under me.
No, it didn't. You were the guys who brought in austerity, you lying sack of shit. You literally brought in austerity. They'll be turning around now saying, oh yeah, we're the good guys. We're the good guys. Oh, sorry about that.
Far too many people off as not fit for work. We're going to look at, when you asked about benefits and sanctions, we're going to provide active support for people into work. But I also think that if people have been offered jobs that they can do and that they don't take them, then that's not okay. So after 12 months, what I've said is we will do something about that. If your job coach says to you, look, there's work that you can do, that everyone agrees you can do, there's a job for you that you're fit enough and well enough to do, and you refuse to take it, I don't think that's fair on everyone else after 12 months of support. So we will tighten that up. I think that's fair for everybody.
Long-term disabled.
I think that those people who can work should work. That's, I think, a fundamental tenet of fairness in our system, which most people will agree with.
The fairness! He's worth £700 million and he's talking about fairness! Piss off, you stumpy-ass bastard with your bag of freaking lies.
If you believe it is wrong, what Rishi Sunak
is
saying, that if someone is offered a job and they can do that job and they turn it down,
the Russians must be the Russians.
No, there's nothing wrong with that, and I just want to address Beverly's point.
You opposed it when I announced it.
I opposed your policies as a crap.
If you listen to people in the audience across the country more often, you might not be quite so out of touch. Beverly.
Yes.
Beverly,
that was a zinger.
Point you make, it's
probably
really
the only one of the debate, but it was a zinger.
Very many people with illness.
Oh, Max is in the chat. Hi,
Max. Want to get back into work for the very reason that was alluded to before: the respect, the dignity, and the support that it gives them. But it's difficult to do so because they're worried about whether they can do it and whether they'll last a period of months. So what a number of firms are doing, businesses, and I've been to see this myself, and I support this, is having a supported scheme where people could be supported back into work for a number of months to make sure they can make that transition and get back into work. I think that's a really good scheme. That's what we would put into place. But I do have to address this question. The Prime Minister keeps saying he's going to cut taxes. He has raised tax 26 times. Nobody's raised more tax than this Prime Minister.
This is not a question about tax. This is a question about getting people back to work. So the numbers have risen considerably since the COVID pandemic. The numbers of people economically inactive due to long-term sickness has risen to 2.8 million. So how would you are seeking power, what would you get those numbers down to through the approach you're talking about?
We want to get the numbers right down. We want to, with a plan.
Thank you, Dominic, for the £2 super chat.
Partly that's supported. Partly it's the changes that we want to make to the job centres to make sure that where businesses and public services, the NHS doesn't go to the job centre when it's got vacancies. They should do, so we want to merge those two services. But the other thing, if we're going to get people back into work, is we have to tackle these terrible...
we've paused again. Don't know what's happening here.
Because nearly 8 million people are on the waiting list.
Someone's just unplugging the feed from the BBC.
That they can't get back into work. It's the fault of the government that's put us in this terrible position. We have to address these
fundamentally.
Emma, thank you very much for the super chat. So looking forward to tomorrow to work with you all and try and unseat Sunak. I really hope you can make a difference
in the welfare system.
I want him to lose by 10 votes.
Clear that people who can work should work. That means looking at all the gateways we have and actually being more rigorous about asking people to provide medical information when they're making these claims, reforming the sick note process, being stricter about saying to people who don't accept a job after 12 months that that's not okay.
Good point,
Those are
Vendetta.
all the practical things that I've set out. I think that's fair. Now, Keir Starmer can stand
here
here
tonight
and say what he wants. When I made that speech, and you can all go and read it and see what they said, they opposed every single measure. Just 2 weeks ago, they were asked about it. They said we oppose all those measures. So it's one thing to stand here and say all these things. You should at least be upfront with people. You don't think my approach is the right one. You are going to have higher welfare under you. And that's why you can't deliver tax cuts the way that I can.
He said deliver. He said deliver. Bless him, he said deliver. Probably Tories in the audience slapping the man who's made their taxes higher.
He's been in power for 14 years. Why has he only just thought of this with a week to go before the general election? Honestly, if there's that much wrong with the system, who's the guy in charge of the system over the last 14 years? Why is it so bad?
Well, you want to be in charge, but you've got nothing to say to people about what you would do about it. This election is about the future.
What? It's about the future. We've already had 14 years of horror under the Tories, sadistical horror.
It needs to come down by getting people back into work with a clear plan, and it needs to come down by tackling the waiting lists so that more people can get back into work, which is why one of the first things that we will do if we're elected in to serve our country, serve being the word
I'm just going to go to Big Graham for a moment.
Is to put in place 40,000 extra appointments, NHS appointments, each and every week. That's 2 million a year to drive down those waiting lists, to give people the comfort and operations that they need, and to allow them to get back into the economy so that we can grow the economy, which is the thing that's been missing so desperately over the last 14 years.
What Keir Starmer's not telling you is actually most of the people who we're talking about, who Sue asked about originally, aren't on an NHS waiting list. So talking about that isn't an answer to this problem.
Nearly 8 million.
The answer to this problem is actually being stricter about the eligibility criteria, making sure that everyone who can work does work, because that's fair to everyone like Sue, who is working very hard and putting in. That's what I will do. I promise you I will deliver on it. We will cut the welfare bill, the growth in the welfare bill. It is
Did he just say deliver again?
We spend too much on it. I set out a plan to do
wear out the
Labour oppose all of it, so the choice for you is simple. If you want higher taxes and higher welfare, that's what Keir Starmer will do. If you want lower taxes and lower welfare, that's what I will do. Do not surrender to our welfare system to the Labour Party and Keir Starmer.
Just false. Thank you for the beer tokens, Jodie Jackson. That's very kind of you.
And this one comes from Steve Curtis.
Woo! Good evening, all. We're an island. Steve. Why can't we easily close our borders?
Thank you, Steve, for that question. Keir Starmer.
Steve, the biggest threat to our borders at the moment
the Tory party.
is the very many people arriving by small boat over the Channel. And there are record numbers. Since Rishi Sunak became Prime Minister, 50,000 people have come across by small boat. And the government has effectively lost control of our borders. And that means it's not just a border security issue, it's actually a national security issue, because the government's lost control of who's coming and what their background is. Now, I think that nobody should be making that journey across the Channel. And we have to smash the gangs that are running this vile trade. There are gangs that are making a fortune, putting people into boats across the Channel, an absolute fortune. And I think they can be taken down. Steve, before I was a politician, I was the chief prosecutor for England and Wales.
So I ran
all criminal prosecutions.
Daddy was a
toolmaker. And we had to deal with terrorist plots and other plots, drug plots, and gun plots, which were across various other countries. We grouped together with police and law enforcement across Europe, and we took down those terrorist gangs. I've seen it done. I've been part of the operations to do it. I do not accept, I will never accept, that the only gangs that apparently can't be taken down are the gangs that are putting vulnerable people in boats to go across the Channel.
We haven't heard from him yet on Steve's question, which was, we're an island, why can't we easily close our borders?
Thanks, Sarah.
Steve,
have a drink
you're
on
right to highlight the issue. It's completely unfair what's happening.
Thank you.
When people come here illegally, jump the queue, It not only puts pressure on public services, it not only threatens our security, it's an affront to that sense of fairness, which is fundamental to our national character.
Fairness.
And that's why
you're worth over £500 million, and you talk about fairness.
The numbers have come down over the past 12 months compared to the 12 months
1 in 4
before.
children living in poverty.
In order to fully solve this problem, you need a deterrent. We need to make it crystal clear to people that if they come to our country illegally, they won't be able to stay. And that's why, if I'm your Prime Minister on July 5th, the flights will go to Rwanda. We will build that deterrent that multiple other European countries now agree is the right way to deal with this problem.
The one that's led to more people coming than ever before.
If Keir Starmer is your Prime Minister, all those illegal migrants will be out on our streets. And that is the
be out on our street. That is an outright lie. That is an outright lie.
On the numbers,
how can you just say they'll be out on the streets when they won't be?
Just 1 moment, I want to clarify something. Small boat arrivals did come down last year, but arrivals so far this year are at a record high. It's more than 13,000 people.
Exactly.
Have you lost control, as Keir Starmer has said?
Sunak and the small
numbers have come down over the past 12 months, as you acknowledge. Michelle, but the way to solve this problem is to have a deterrent. And look, I will tell you this. The Rwanda plan is a deterrent. You just have to listen to what the illegal migrants themselves are saying. One of them just said, most of us are still in France due to the fear we have about Rwanda. Another one said, I won't cross the channel until the Rwanda plan is destroyed. If Labour win, the people smugglers are going to need a bigger boat.
The thousands of people coming over
to the Labour Party.
You would scrap the Rwanda plan.
Record numbers have come under this Prime Minister's watch. Record numbers coming across the channel. And he says it's a deterrent. There are a few hundred that would go on a flight to Rwanda. A huge expense.
I don't know what's more irritating, Sunak, the Tory audience, or the shouting outside.
Since Rishi Sunak has been Prime Minister, 50,000 across the channel. A few hundred going every year means there's a 99% chance you're not going to Rwanda. Now, I've worked with criminal gangs, Rishi Sunak. I know that they are telling the people they're exploiting there's a 99% chance of not going to Rwanda. That is not a disincentive. That is not a deterrent, and it's not working. If it were working, why are record numbers still coming under your watch, Prime Minister? How on earth can you say it's working? You put the scheme in place. The flights could go off. I notice you called the election, by the way, before any flights could actually get off, and it could be tested. An interesting timing. But if this was such a deterrent, why is it obviously not working?
You spent all this time when I first got this job saying call an election. Then when we call election, you spend all your time saying why did you call an election?
5:31, Blaze.
This is about the future.
I can tell everyone
what I'm going to do with illegal migrants who come to our country. They will be on planes, be sent away because they shouldn't be here. What will you do with the illegal migrants that arrive to the UK? What will you do with them? You've had 3 weeks to think of an answer. What is it?
We've got tens of thousands of people here who've come unlawfully. The Prime Minister says he'll send them all to Rwanda. The Rwanda scheme takes a few hundred. It would take literally 300 years to get all the people who are here unlawfully to Rwanda. So they're going to stay here.
If elected, what would you do?
What would you do with them?
So at the moment, they're not being processed.
Yeah.
So they're sitting in hotels, which you are all paying for. They're not processed, and as a result of not being processed, that means not a single one, even those that shouldn't be here, could be returned anywhere. So once they've got here under the Prime Minister's scheme, they're here for life. That's an absurd situation to have got into.
Yep.
So, yes, we do need to process.
But what will you do with them?
We've got to process the claims.
Process the claims?
With tens of thousands of people. But just
when
let me finish.
Illegal migrants come to our country, what will you do with them?
Processed their claims.
It's a very simple question.
Well,
yeah, you process the claims.
I can tell people what
deport them if
they
shouldn't be here.
To Rwanda because they shouldn't be able to stay.
300 years.
What will you do with illegal migrants who come to our country? What will you do with them? It's a simple question.
His plan is
what will you do with them?
They need to be processed at the moment.
Processed?
They're not. These claims are not being processed.
To be clear, will mean most of them will be given asylum. They will get the right to remain in this country.
At the moment, 100% of them are effectively being granted asylum in this country because they can't go anywhere. They can't go anywhere. They cannot. The Prime Minister knows this.
Not allowed to work either.
If he thinks I'm wrong, he should say so. Because they're not being processed, they cannot be returned to where they came from. Can they, Prime Minister? If he wants to correct that, now's his chance to do it. They cannot be returned.
Well, do you know where these people come from?
No, he's not answering the question.
Do you know where they come from? Iran,
you can see.
Syria, Afghanistan.
Putting up with
so
this,
Keir Starmer says he's going to return people.
I appreciate you as well.
You're going to sit down with the Iranian ayatollahs. Are you going to try and do a deal with the Taliban? It's completely nonsensical. What you are
trying to do a deal with the Taliban? What are you on about?
You are taking
absolute bollocks. You're going to do a deal with the Taliban?
Right? I think that these people should not stay in our country. They will be on planes to Rwanda. That's
No,
what
they
I
won't.
would do with them. You still can't
Do you-
answer the question.
will you-
What will
will
you
you
do with
send-
them?
You said he's going to process
tens
them.
of
All the illegal migrants who arrive
50,000.
will be
Rwanda.
processed and put on planes to Rwanda.
50,000. Is that the
That
scheme?
is the choice for you. If you
50,000.
think illegal migrants should not be in
making
our
it up.
country, they should be sent somewhere else to build the deterrent, I will deliver for that
It's
for you.
literally
Do not
making it up.
surrender our borders to Keir Starmer and the Labour Party. This situation will just get worse. We will become the soft touch of Europe. And as I said the other night,
soft
they are
touch of
queuing up in
Europe.
Calais waiting for a Keir Starmer.
You take
to
half
be
as
in
many
the
people. You take half as
you
many
will
refugees
send
as France.
Tens of thousands of people
You know
who
that's
are
not
here
true.
and out of the asylum system at the moment. You are promising to
know
send them
that's not
all
true.
to Rwanda.
We will
in
have a
due
number
course.
of flights from July through
number?
to build
What
the
number?
deterrent. That's what I've
What
always
number?
said.
Tens of thousands.
The
What
principle
number?
here is I
That's not
don't
true.
think people who come here should be able to stay.
He
But look,
knows it's not true.
Keir, you talk about this as if you care
think
about
Roger
the issue,
Devine's
but this is-
being
when
funny,
you ran
if
for the
anyone thinks
Labour
that's a
leadership,
troll.
which wasn't very long ago, you promised to protect free movement. You said you would close. You promised to close detention centres for illegal migrants, and you boasted in that letter of getting illegal migrants more welfare.
Is this
that's
another
what
letter?
You actually believe. And
Oh, is this a
again,
different letter?
do not surrender
Is this a
our
different letter?
borders to the Labour
Sorry.
Party.
I'm very clear that what we need to do here, we need to get our security of our borders back. They've lost control.
I think he's gonna get- I've been absolutely clear
We've
for
got to
that.
smash the gangs that are doing
Oh
this in
my
the first
God.
place.
Smash
He
the gang. You know
groans-
what? I really want to address this, Michelle.
no, he
We
groans
passed a
about-
law in Parliament. People back in their own mind, right? You're right. We do have to smash the gangs. What does that mean? We passed a law in Parliament. We passed new laws so that our
We've
law enforcement
passed
agencies
the laws.
could use them. You know what?
There's
They've
nothing.
arrested
Done it.
1,000 criminals and people smugglers. They've
Yeah, and has
sentenced
it
them
stopped?
to hundreds of years, exactly
Has
as
it
you would expect
stopped?
us to do. That's what we did.
Has it stopped?
Do you know what? The Labour Party voted against that law.
Yeah, 'cause it was
so
a
when
shit
you,
law.
You
That
stand
wouldn't
there
work.
and say smash
Didn't
the gangs,
work.
like on every other
Didn't
issue.
work,
you
did
say
it?
one thing,
Didn't
you do
work.
another. You just don't know which Keir
Thank you
Starmer you're
very
gonna
much,
get.
Hayes, for
On
being
this
so
issue,
good.
do not surrender our borders to him.
This is the difference between me and the Prime Minister. Before I did this job, I was running the Crown Prosecution Service. I was the Director of Public Prosecution. And it was my responsibility to take down criminal gangs on behalf of everybody in this room, everybody watching, to protect the country. So I know that this can be done. You share the data, the analysis, the intelligence. You have to have a strategy to arrest everybody at exactly the same time. You need to know what evidence is going to be used in which court, where, and which country is going to have the lead on the prosecution. We did it to take down really dangerous terrorist gangs. There was one terrorist gang that involved bringing down 9 planes in the Atlantic at the same
told
time
us
with
this.
bombs. That was one of the cases that I had to deal with as a prosecution.
It's a very
We
different
did it-
kind of
we
threat,
did
isn't it?
No, but these were very sophisticated
The question-
terrorist
again,
gangs.
the question-
I do
the
not
question
accept-
was
I had a very
I
simple
don't
question.
accept that this
I had a
can't be.
very
I
simple
don't
question.
accept this
Right
can't be
now-
done for the
right
gangs
now,
that are running this
right
vile
now,
trade.
there are
Stop
criminal
talking
people
over him.
smugglers that are spending hundreds of years in our jails.
Yeah, and
because
there's
of the laws
loads
that the
more
Conservatives
that are
passed.
actually
When
smuggling
it came
people
to
over
it, the
the
Labour
the
Party
channel.
opposed those laws. They voted against it. So
Yes,
when he's standing
they
here
voted
before
against
you
your
tonight saying,
stupid
yes,
laws
he
that
cares
didn't
about
work.
This, he's going to do about this. Just look at his record.
Starmer,
This
say
is someone who
we
defended
voted
free
against your
movement.
stupid
He
laws that
campaigned
didn't
against
work.
the
It was part
deportation
of our
of
membership of
foreign
the EU, and
criminals.
we've now
He
left.
can't
I
be
think
trusted on
everybody
this
but
issue.
everybody
Do
else.
not
Ooh, he nearly
surrender
mentioned
our
the
borders
Brexit
to
there.
him.
Thank you both for your responses, and I'm going to turn now
Don't mention
to
the
our
Brexit,
next
Kia.
question, which comes from Mohammed Mubarak Sheikh.
Hi. You have both made lots of promises, but you haven't set out a clear plan to pay for those promises. Where is the money going to come from?
You've both made lots of promises. You haven't set
How
out
will
a
you
clear
pay
plan
for
to pay
it?
for those promises.
I knew that was
Where
coming.
is the money going to come from,
Print it.
Rishi
Let's get
Sunak?
the Bank of England to
Well,
print
actually,
the
we
bloody
talked
money.
about it, Mohammed, in Sue's question. I think it's right that we make savings from the welfare
You're gonna put taxes up.
because it's forecast to grow
And cut
at an unsustainable
welfare.
rate. I don't think that's right. I don't think that's fair. Set out a comprehensive
Oh,
plan. You can
stop
go and have a
talking
look
about
at it online.
fairness.
And those
You're going to be
savings
worth
we
£1
will
billion
use to cut your
in a
taxes.
couple of years, mate.
And what I
Don't
wanna
talk
do is
about
cut
what's
taxes
fair
for people
in a
at
country
every
where 1
stage
in
of
4
their life.
children are
For
living
everyone
in
in work,
poverty.
we're going to continue
Rat man.
cutting national insurance, £900 this year.
Thanks, Stu, for
pensioners,
£10 super
we have
chat.
the triple lock plus. We will raise the allowance, delivering a tax
He
cut for
said he
pensioners,
brought in the
making
law
sure
like
that
it
the
makes a
state
difference.
pension
These
is
people work
never
outside the law
subject to
anyway.
income
Bringing law
tax.
does nothing.
If you're a
Smashing the
young
gangs by
couple
police action.
wanting to buy your first home, we're effectively
point.
going to abolish stamp duty. If you have children, you're a family, we're going to expand the generosity
Effectively.
of child benefit.
Effectively.
Right? These are the tax
What,
cuts
to-
that
to-
I want
to
to
more than
deliver.
two
And if you're a
children?
small business owner and entrepreneur,
News to
we're going
me.
to abolish national insurance for the self-employed. So those are the tax cuts. That's how we're going to pay for it, and that's the choice for you at this election. You can have tax cuts with the Conservatives, or you can have
gonna
thousands
cut
of pounds of
taxes.
tax rises under the Labour Party.
What a
because he's
lie.
simply not being straight with you about what is coming.
Lie.
Lie. Words. Your taxes are going up if he is in charge.
Lie. That's all they can get. That's all they've got.
But Mohammed, I'll answer your question. Everything in our manifesto so we've set out all of our plans. It's a manifesto for growing our economy, for creating wealth, to make sure our country is better off and that everybody within the country is better off. It's got clear columns setting out how much each of our plans is going to cost, and then a column saying where that money is going to come from, so that everything is fully costed. And fully funded. We've got very strong fiscal rules because we want economic stability, which is what we've been missing in recent years. And the reason for that, Mohammed, because this is really, really important, is that we know what happens if unfunded tax cuts are made, because Liz Truss tried that experiment on the country. And we're all paying the price for that. And when she was elected as leader of the Conservative Party, Rishi Sunak said we should unite behind her. I don't think we should unite behind her. I think we should learn the lessons, which is why I'm not prepared to allow an incoming Labour government ever to inflict that kind of damage on people across the country, because people are still paying the price. Many people on a mortgage now, who've come off a fixed-rate mortgage, are now paying hundreds of pounds
14 years
more
of no
because
growth.
the damage done to the economy. But Rishi Sunak hasn't learnt the lesson, because his manifesto has got commitments in there that are unfunded, because his Chancellor has said that the money he says he's going to use has already been spent. And everybody knows you can't spend the same money twice. So you're going to go round, if we have 5 more years of this, we're going to go round and round in circles.
Yes,
we're going to end up exactly where we are.
Just before you respond, because each of you had a say on that, just before you respond, I'm going to make clear that Mohammed's not alone in thinking that neither of you have set out a clear plan to pay for your promises. The IFS think tank said this week that you are both your parties are ignoring raw facts.
That's nonsense. We have
and
a plan.
And that huge decisions need to be made, which in all likelihood will mean either higher taxes or worse public services.
Well, actually, the IFS also said that it's right to identify welfare as a challenge that needs to be addressed. And the IFS also acknowledged that when the Conservatives previously set out savings that they would get from the welfare bill, the IFS didn't think it would happen, and in fact, they were delivered. And I'm sure BBC Verified put that quote on their website.
Delivered!
But look, 2 years ago, I warned repeatedly about what Liz Truss's economic policies would do to our country, even if it wasn't what people wanted to hear at the time. I was right then.
You were in her
And that's why you
party.
can trust me now. That's why you can trust me now when I say that the Labour Party's policies will mean all your taxes are going to go up by thousands of pounds.
Stop the Tories,
not
vote.
Mark my words.
Stop the Tories, vote. Thank you very much.
Your home, your car, you name it.
We're paying the highest tax ever in this country. Ever. Highest rate of tax ever in this country.
He's been asked multiple times. Will he change the council tax bans? He won't rule it out. I'll ask him again, but I'm going to tell you, do not surrender your family
They need changing. They haven't been updated for like 30 years, mate.
Directly, because the Prime Minister said he warned the country about Liz Truss and the damage that she was going to do to our...
Oh, my God. The damage she was going to do.
And then in the next breath, he said we must unite behind her and support her. Why on earth would you unite behind someone that you say was going to do that damage?
You know what it's like to fall in behind a leader of your party.
But
beaten by a lettuce.
He's repeating the problem.
Did someone break out the emergency Corbyn?
He said unite behind her. She's one of his candidates. And his election pitch to you seems to be, my predecessor, a Tory Prime
slow down
Minister,
again.
Broke the country, did huge economic damage. Please vote Tory. Now, you're going to have to decide whether that's persuasive. He's now openly admitting the damage that the Tories have done to the economy and saying, please vote for him.
I'm really sorry about the
breakup of the... straightforward. When it comes to the economy, I was right then.
Internet there.
And since I've been your Prime Minister, inflation is back to normal. The economy is growing faster than our competitors. Wages are rising. Energy bills are falling. We've started cutting your taxes.
Lies.
And I will keep cutting your taxes.
Lies.
Taxes
are up.
Taxes are up. Taxes that he wants to put up on you are coming.
Hang on, benefit claimants are paying for tax cuts. That's a fair system. Yeah, I know, Stu. It's crazy.
You've realised that under a future Labour government, for the first time in our country's history, the state pension will be subject to a retirement tax under Labour. That's what their plans are. Those are the numbers, black and white. We're not going to do that. We're going to have the triple
coming up with this?
But for the millions of pensioners that are watching, be very worried.
Oh, look at, he's just lying. No. They're not putting a tax on pensioners.
By putting out falsehood. You mentioned the IFS.
Which one's the fault?
He keeps saying we're going to raise taxes.
Sorry, can you confirm?
Will
the state pension be subject to income tax under a future Labour government? The only way for it not is for you to match our triple lock plus. So maybe you can change policy here tonight. Will you match our triple lock plus and ensure that state pension is never subject to income tax?
The position on the state pension that we've set out is exactly...
it's a yes or no.
Hang on, we need to hear this response.
I think you should show some respect to the audience who want to know what I've got to say about this without constantly being interrupted. It really isn't the way to do the debate.
What's the answer to the question about whether you'll match what they're going to do on pensions?
The position on pensioners and tax, or pensions on tax, that we've set out is exactly the same. It is the position of the government at their last budget. It is their position. The Prime Minister now says, oh, I'm going to change that. I'm going to change all that. When asked where the money is coming from, his Chancellor says the money is being spent, it isn't there. That is making the same mistake again. Can I just address the IFS point, though, because I think that is really important.
If you're a pensioner, you should know there is a retirement tax coming for you, capital
retirement
R, capital
tax.
T, if he is
pensioners, please vote for me. Oh, this is desperate. This is desperate.
Be paying tax because he won't match our
desperate lies here from Sunak.
And that's what I'll deliver for you. As I say it again, do
deliver.
not surrender your finances to their tax rises.
If you've got a very brief response, then I want to go to the next question.
Well, pensioners are not going to be better off with the Prime Minister who's making promises that he can't keep because they're not funded. That's exactly what Liz Truss got wrong. We cannot... There's one thing that we cannot repeat at this election. Please do not go back to Liz Truss Mark II with this Prime Minister, because the same damage will follow. If you can't say...
It is funded.
We're going to end this particular topic here.
The reason you can't fund it is because you think that you can't...
One at a time, please.
We've still got lots of topics to get through, so I'm going to turn to the next question.
That's why I can.
Thank you. This next question is from Karen Duran.
Good evening. I'm a children's nurse at a local hospital. I see families affected by libraries and children's centres closing. How will you help councils after Nottingham City Council has effectively gone bankrupt?
Thank you, Karen.
Yeah, we'll maybe fund them more from central government.
And the council here has been run by Labour since 1991.
Yes, but the funding comes from central government.
Yes, and I'm very concerned about the situation, because I think anybody looking at a council which has run out of money is concerned about the basic services, whether it's libraries or other support that councils have to put in place. And this is a position for councils of all political stripes. There are Conservative-run councils that have struggled for money and gone bankrupt as well because of the lack of adequate and proper structured funding from the government. Yeah. You asked what we would do about it, and I think it is important for us to set out what we would do if we came into office. We would change the way the payments are made to councils. At the moment, council leaders are saying they're made on a yearly basis, so we can't make the most effective use of the money that's available to us. If they're on a longer term, we could make much better use of that. Secondly, they're saying if you could do what the Conservatives promised but didn't actually do, which is to stop no-fault evictions, that would have a massive help for councils as well. Because when people lose their home through no fault of their own, quite a lot of them end up having to have support of a local authority. I don't think you should have no-fault evictions. I think we should actually get on and get rid of them. That's what the Prime Minister used to say, but he doesn't do it.
On your point about council funding, a multi-year funding plan doesn't give more money necessarily, does it? So unless, are you saying there is more money that would come to local authorities under a Labour government?
If you go for a 3-year settlement, it means the available money can be used better, because any council leader will tell you that trying to make the best use of the money within the constraints of a 12-month period doesn't work. So it's better use of existing money. But look, I'm not going to stand here and say there's some magic wand that I can wave the day after the election and find money that isn't there. Huge damage has been done to our economy. It is going to take time. That's why our manifesto is a manifesto for growing our economy, for creating wealth, to making sure that we can make sure all of our public services, whether that's councils or others, are properly funded, providing the services that people expect and actually, frankly, deserve, which is not the case at the moment. Let's get Rishi Sunak's
response. How will you help councils after Nottingham City Council's effectively gone bankrupt?
Karen, my first job in government was being local government minister, so I was responsible for councils, and they do an extraordinary job. And much as people focus on money that you give them, actually, most politics is local. It's what's happening in your street, your neighbourhood, your community, and the services that you mentioned are so important, particularly those that concern families and children.
37-bedroom
One of the things that
mansion.
I do want to do is actually roll out family hubs, as we've been doing over the past few years, which are special places where whole families
knows
can
all
come
about
and get the
neighbourhoods.
advice and support they need, particularly the most vulnerable
Okay, went to
families. Look, and in terms of
Winchester.
funding councils, we've recently announced just over £500 million of extra funding for councils, particularly for social care, which is where some of the big pressures are in children's services, which you alluded to.
Why have you cut central
And we'll continue
funding
to
by
work with councils to
49%?
provide them the support they need. But
Why have you cut
mentioned
central
Nottingham,
funding?
right? And that is a
Why have you cut
glimpse
Short
of the
Start?
future.
Why have you cut
Nottingham City
libraries?
Council bankrupt under Labour. Birmingham City Council,
What about your-
the largest council
what about
in
your
the country.
councils
In
that
fact,
gone
the largest
bankrupt?
in Europe, not just bankrupt, but as a
Mention
result,
the fact
everyone
that
in Birmingham
their
is
money,
now paying a
big chunk of it
20%
comes from
higher
central
council
government.
tax bill. And that is a snapshot of what will happen if Keir Starmer is
lies.
in power and
More
across the
lies.
country.
This is
As
happening
Labour
under his
always do,
watch.
More
they
lies.
run out of everyone's money, they bankrupt the
It's
economy
all
in
happened under his
2010, they
watch.
bankrupted Birmingham, they bankrupted
Davy
Nottingham,
Inderstar,
and
thank
that's
you
why
so
everyone in
much.
Birmingham is paying a 20% higher council tax.
you do
So that
know,
is
don't
just
you,
an
Rishi
No,
Sunak?
appetizer
because you have
of the higher
reduced
taxes that are
government
gonna come
funding for
under
local
a future
councils
Labour government.
by
Do not surrender
49%.
your local council
You
and our finances
bastard.
to them.
Okay. Councils like Woking and Thurrock
Exactly.
were Conservative when
Exactly.
similar problems first
What do
emerged.
you say about that? Conservative councils in exactly the same problem. What do you say about that? And I have to
Everyone
say,
in Birmingham-
a Prime Minister gloating about the
Everyone in
fact that
Birmingham is
councils are
paying a
struggling and the impact that you know
higher
of. You
council
should-
tax.
He's responsible.
You don't have to believe me, you can go and check
One at a
as
time,
a result of their
please.
financial mismanagement. Right? The same thing happened in Nottingham, right? That's what you get with the Labour Party. You remember what happened last time they were in office. They run out of your money, they bankrupt the country,
what
and
about
you all pay for it
No,
in
no,
higher
that's not what
taxes, and
happened.
That is the choice for you at this election.
Our economy
Right? We are
doubled
making
under Labour.
progress. The economy
It
is
has
growing.
stayed
Taxes are
absolutely
now
stagnant
coming down.
under you
The financial
clowns.
security that you want, I can deliver.
Growth is
But if we
zero.
put all that progress at risk
Oh
with
my
them,
God,
your
I
family
can't believe
finances
that
are going to
he's
get
actually
hammered.
said.
Your taxes are going to get whacked up.
I can't believe
and
that he's
that
actually
is the
said
choice for you at this
delivering.
election. Do not surrender to their tax rises.
Okay, thank you both. Just before we get to the next question, I'm going to remind everyone watching that we have got more questions coming in this prime ministerial debate, but online on the BBC
Oh, well, that's
live
it.
page,
No.
you'll be able to see what BBC Verify are
Very sorry
already,
about this,
doing. They're already fact-checking and
the fact it
assessing the
keeps doing
claims
this.
made here, and will
It's quite
continue
annoying.
to do so throughout the time we are on air.
I'm just
Our
going to
next
speed up a
question
little
is
bit
from Robert Blackstone.
because we're about a minute behind.
Good evening, gentlemen. Mr. Sunak, I think you made a fair job of being Chancellor, but you're a pretty mediocre Prime Minister. Sir Keir, I think that your strings are being pulled by very senior members of the Labour Party.
What?
Are you
He's the
two
Prime Minister?
really the best
Sorry, he's
we've
leader?
got to be the next Prime Minister of our great country?
Well, they're better than fucking Liz Truss, mate, and Boris frickin' Johnson. Dickhead.
Well, Rob, look, I can understand your frustration, everyone's frustration, because the last few years have not been easy. We've dealt with a lot as a country. I'm not saying we've got everything right. I certainly would be the first to acknowledge that. But I've been your Prime Minister for 18 months.
Not got everything right.
And in that
Not got
time,
anything right.
we've got inflation down from 11% with all
That
the
you
damage
got it
was
up to
doing the cost of
11%.
living
That
back
was
to
you.
target. The
That was
economy in
you.
the first quarter of this year, fastest growing in the G7.
For like
Wages
2
rising
minutes,
faster than prices
and then it
for almost a year now. And my
pancaked
primary
as it
job was
always
to
does.
deliver that economic stability so I could start cutting your taxes.
Deliver. This guy
That is the
delivers more
journey
letters than
we're now
Postman
on.
fucking
So whatever
Pat.
your other frustrations, the choice for you at this election is about the future. If you want lower taxes, if you want your borders
you were
secure,
lying.
as Steve
If you
was
want lies,
asking
if you
before,
want lies,
if you want a
vote for this
sensible
guy.
approach to net
If
zero,
you want
your
lies,
pension
if you want
protected
lies,
with a
vote for
triple
this
opt
guy.
plus, that is what I will do
If
for
you want lies,
This
vote
is a
for this guy.
serious election with consequences for you
Lost
and your
to a
family.
lettuce.
I get the frustrations,
Lost
but think about
to
the choice.
a lettuce.
Allow me to finish the job I've started, cut your taxes, protect your pension, secure our borders. Because if Keir Starmer and the Labour Party are in charge, your taxes are going up, our borders are going to be insecure, you're going to be saddled with bills as he reverses my net zero changes, and every pensioner is going to face retirement tax for the first time in history.
Just
And
make it
that is
up.
the choice that you should have in your
Retirement
mind.
tax.
Keir Starmer.
Robert,
You know, pensioners already pay income tax on their pension. It's included if they're still working
Robert,
and they're getting a pension.
Earlier in my
which a
career,
lot of
I worked in
pensioners are.
Northern Ireland with the police in Northern Ireland as part of the work out of the Good Friday Agreement. And with a team, I set out to change the police service in Northern Ireland to make sure
Ivan,
it gained the confidence
I feel you, man.
of all communities in Northern Ireland, which was a really
Thanks for the
important
super chat,
part
mate.
of the peace process. So I went, I said what we would do, and we delivered. I then ran the Crown
Nathaniel, thank you very
Prosecution
much
Service
for
5
the
years
for
with
the £2
7,000
super
staff.
chat. That's very
I
kind.
said we
Thank
would
you.
improve the way we dealt with violence against women and girls. I said we'd do it, we made the change, and we got on with it, and we made that change, and it was more successful at the end. I came into the Labour Party 4.5 years ago, and I said we will change our party to make sure that we are a party that can put a credible proposition before the country for changing the country, and that we always say, country first, party second. I've been there, I've done it, I've changed it. What I'm now asking for is the opportunity to change our country for the better, because we've had 14 pretty awful years. 14 years, and I think most people would say we've ended up now with almost everything not working very well, worse than it was 14 years ago when this government came in. Most people not feeling better off, and this is a choice
Happy Jack, go watch it on the BBC.
If we go on for another 5 years of this under Rishi Sunak, that is not going to change. That isn't going to change. So this is the opportunity to turn the page, to rebuild our country, rebuild our public services, rebuild our economy, and make sure that we can genuinely say to ourselves we're a better country, better run, proper public services, and people feel better off. Now, I've done that sort of change throughout my life.
I'm just going to come back to the question, because
5 or 6 changes.
Robert Blackstock knows your background. He certainly knows that you've been Chancellor. He's probably familiar with your arguments, and he still says, are you two really the best we've got to be the next Prime Minister of our great country? Now, polling does suggest that there's no great enthusiasm for either of you. Do you recognise that? Do you hear it on the campaign trail? Are you aware of that?
Michelle, that's what I said. I said to Rob, I recognise his frustrations.
It's more personal than that, isn't it? He's talking about both of you.
But there's a choice for everyone, right? There's a choice for everyone. Right? Keir Starmer talks about change. You don't get change unless you've got a plan to deliver change. Just saying it isn't going to bring about any change. And as you've heard tonight, there's no plan to cut your taxes, no plan to reform the welfare bill, no plan to deal with illegal migration, right? That's the reality of it. Yes, there will be change. It won't be change you like. It will be change when your taxes are going up, when we've become the soft touch of Europe for illegal migrants.
Oh, thanks so much to Anthony Fisher there. Rishi just came saying delivering because you're looking for shares of Just Eat or delivering.
So don't surrender to that, because your families are going to pay the price.
I think this question of enthusiasm is really important that you put to us, because I'm not surprised that after 14 years of this,
cheers, Anthony,
people feel that the hope's been beaten out of them, because the country is in such a state. They've had loads of promises made to them at the last election about what would happen, which haven't been delivered on. That does beat the hope out of people. The very first question was about integrity in politics. And again, people haven't seen that integrity. You've had Partygate, you've had the breach of COVID rules, you've had the contracts for COVID, the
integrity.
The first thing in COVID I'm going to do is try to make money. Same with
Shut up, Sunak, says Mark. Unfortunately,
nonsense over the last
it was Starmer who was shut up by the BBC there.
To restore that hope. I don't think we can do that by making sort of grand promises of things that can't be delivered. I think it's the ordinary hope of working people. My family was working class. The ordinary hope of
my daddy. Is he going to mention? Is he going to mention his
family,
daddy?
Getting on for your community and getting on for your country.
Is he going to mention his dad was a toolmaker?
Rooted if we're going to restore hope.
Say toolmaker. Go on.
In returning politics
say it. I dare
to
you.
serve.
I double dare you.
The sense that you come into politics to serve.
That was a nice answer.
On that note, our next question, which is from Rachel Webster.
Good evening. How can I ensure that if I vote for either of you, two men, you'll put women's interests first?
Well, the Deputy Prime Minister will be Angela Rayner.
Starmer.
And they'll also have
thank
Jess
you very
Phillips
much for that
on the team and Stella Creasy.
I have in my team,
we're going to have the first female
with me, very good, strong women that will deliver for the country. Rachel Reeves would be the first woman Chancellor if we're elected into government. She worked, as you know, in the Bank of England and is very keen and strong on the fiscal rules and what we need to do for our economy. I've got Angela Rayner, my deputy, who again has an incredible background coming from a difficult background where was a care worker for many years and now deputy leader of my party, and I'm very proud of her.
I was thinking that Joe Lefty.
These people and there are plenty of others, Yvette Cooper, Bridget Phillips, and you name it, really good, strong women who'll be part of my team. I think that leadership is about empowering your team and making sure it's a team on the pitch that are all batting and working together. And that's the way I lead, not suggesting for a moment that I'm the one with all the answers, but knowing that if I lead my team and bring my team into this, and we work as a team and will serve as a team, if we get the opportunity to do so. I will do it with some really fantastic, wonderful women who have been on this journey for me for 4.5 years, changing our party to put it before the country with that, you know, essential principle, country first, party second.
Breaking news.
Mr. Sunak, how would you...
I'm just gonna stop there. It looks like the CCHQ Press account, which is the Conservative press account, has changed its name to Tax Check UK for this debate.
You ensure you put women's interests first?
Yeah, so I didn't catch...
Rachel.
Rachel. You know, probably the easiest thing I can tell you is that I have 2 young daughters. And
I don't have a turf graphic.
Because as a dad, first and foremost, rather than a politician or prime minister, I want them to grow up in a country which is safe for them when they become teenagers and can walk around on their own.
Do you have a
making sure that we have
graphic,
on the streets,
which I might have to use in a couple of seconds?
It's really important to me. I want to make sure that they have the health that they need, and that's why we've been making changes to things like HRT and maternity care in hospitals. But I also want to make sure that when they grow up and have jobs and start a family, that they're supported too, which is why we're rolling out 30 hours of free childcare for every working parent from the time that their little one is 9 months old to when the toddler goes off to school at 4 years. And that will make a big difference to families up and down the country. But that's why.
People aren't having children because of you.
But I want my girls to grow up in a country where the sky is the limit for their ambitions. There is nothing that they can't do because they're women, and that's the kind of place that I believe in.
It's a very Tory.
I'm going to bring in a related question because this came to us via the BBC's Your Voice, Your Vote website. It was from Vicky in Oxfordshire, who asks this: will you protect women's right to single-sex spaces from any and all males, regardless of if they hold a GRC, a gender recognition certificate? Rishi Sunak?
Yeah, yes, unequivocally. And we will do that by changing the law so that the Odd Equalities Act recognises that sex means biological sex, and that will allow us to deliver on what Vicky wants, which is to protect female-only spaces, female-only services. It's crystal clear for you there is a choice on that question at this election.
Is this a big issue now?
Because Keir Starmer is not...
You know where they have female-only spaces?
To reform the Equalities
Saudi
Act.
Arabia.
That is the only way to deliver on what Vicky says.
Oh,
and the
deliver.
reason he won't do that,
He's going to deliver.
He can explain, is because he's not sure, like I am, that when it comes to these matters, sex means biological sex, and that's how you protect female-only spaces and stuff.
Piss off, you transphobic bigot. Ivan, this format is wrong again. It should be one leader at a time.
Yes, is the answer to the question. It's very important that we protect women's spaces. I saw this firsthand when I was Chief Prosecutor back in 2008 to 2013. I was working with
lots of things happening in toilets.
Women who've been subjected to domestic violence and sexual violence, and saw for
domestic
myself
violence.
just how important it is to
So
have
you say
those
domestic
women's
violence?
spaces.
Does that happen in
Same
public toilets?
Hospitals and in sport. So yes to that
Hospitals and sports.
answer.
Is that where the domestic violence happens?
Is that
I was in the home.
That there are a small number of people who are born into a gender that they don't identify with, and I will treat them, as I treat all human beings, with dignity and respect. And I'll tell you for why. I'll tell you for why.
Look at the turf
if you
sitting
don't,
there.
you end up with the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom standing in Parliament making an anti-trans joke in front of the mother of a murdered trans teenager. I will never, ever allow myself to be put into that position.
Enthusiastic members of the audience.
That's not what I did. I was pointing out that you've changed your mind on this question multiple times. But to answer Vicky's question, you can't deliver on what Vicky wants. So everyone who does want female spaces protected
is he talking about delivering
has to be prepared to change the laws that the Equalities Act recognises that sex means biological sex. It's pretty straightforward. Now, Keir Starmer says that he believes in that, but he won't change the law to do it. So he's not being straight with you again. Right? Saying one thing and doing another, you won't change the law to recognise that sex means biological sex, so you cannot say to Vicky and everyone else who cares about this issue that you will actually ensure that their spaces are protected.
If he'd been in as many support centres that I've been in for those that have survived sexual violence and domestic violence, he would know very well it is possible to do it. It is being done. I've supported it being done when I was Chief Prosecutor. I've always believed in that principle of women's spaces. That's going back to 2008, way before this latest iteration of the debate, because I could recognise for myself just how important it was to have that space, women-only space, biological women-only space, particularly in that area, but also in other areas.
How do you ensure it? Just a second. I mean, Rishi Sunak, how do you ensure it without changing the Equalities Act?
It's provided for under the Equality Act. It is actually spelt out as one of the examples given in the Act. It always has been. And fabricating a difference here in a situation where actually we should be trying to find common ground and work together. Well, I'm proud of the record of my party on women's rights. We've done amazing things in terms of equality under Labour governments, made a massive difference to millions of lives. There's much more work to do on women's equality going forward. But the only way I think we can make that progress is if we change the way that we do politics, stop this business of always trying to divide everybody, and actually use the opportunity of leadership, which is what I would do, to say the job of the leader of the country is to bring people together. These are difficult discussions, different opinions, of course, but the role of the leader of the country is to bring that together so that the country itself is less divided.
Well,
one of the issues for me is with sadness, is the fact that over the last 14 years, there's been this tendency on almost every issue to try to find the points of difference and division, rather than doing what we're actually really good at as a country, which is bringing people together.
Before we move on.
It's quite a muted round of applause. That it's a really gammony audience that the BBC's put
together. The courage of your convictions and principles. Right? I believe when it comes to these matters, sex means biological sex. Of course, we should have compassion.
He did get tetchy vishy. Thanks for the super chat, mate.
But fundamentally, when it comes to women's safety, women's only spaces, sex means biological sex for me. That is the only way to make sure you can deliver the protections that Vicky wants. And on this question, Keir Starmer, when one of his own female MPs made that point a while ago, he said that she was wrong.
Yeah, she was.
She was hounded, right? He said she was wrong. Now,
she
he's
was
now changed his mind
was hounded
on that question.
Of all the trans people who are hounded every day by the richest author in the world.
That not all of you will agree
Kemi
with mine,
Badenoch as well.
right? But I'm being clear with you. Sex means biological sex.
Yeah.
You have to change the Equalities Act to deliver the security of women's spaces and women's
Stop
services.
saying
That's
the
what I believe
fucking word deliver. Say deliver again, motherfucker.
One of your MPs.
Big applause for that. This is a very biased audience.
This is all set out in the Equalities Act already. The specific instance of safe space, it's set out. Read the legislation. Look at the notes under the legislation. It's been there for years. Don't just use this as a political football to try to divide people across the country.
Okay, thank you very much for that. We'll move on to our next question, and this one is from Julie Waters.
Good evening, gents. I own a jazz vinyl record business with my partner.
Kinky.
Post-Brexit, we have lost 90% of our business with Europe. How can we mend our broken trading relationship with Europe?
Okay.
Oh, no, she said it. She mentioned the Brexit.
90% of Julie's business with Europe has been lost. Now, Keir Starmer, you were a Remainer. Rishi Sunak, you argued and voted for leave. How can we mend our broken trading relationship with Europe?
Well, Julie, first of all, thank you for doing what you do. My mum was also a small business owner. I grew up in a family that had a family business. I know how hard it is. I know what the struggles are like, and our economy is built
struggles.
On people like
you went to Winchester. Your brother went to Winchester. Your sister went to a private school as well. That must have cost your parents up to £100,000 a year.
Focus should be on
Talk
making
about
sure we
struggle,
make the best of all the opportunities.
Absolute
in an economy-wide sense, we're actually doing very well now at exporting around the world. But in order to help you, I have two specific things that I can do that will help. One of them is to make sure
to not be Prime Minister in a couple of weeks.
Retailers like yours, I think you said you had a
9 days time. You will not be our Prime Minister. That's what you can do.
That's why we've cut business rates for small.
Get off the stage. California is waiting. Thank you very much, Ivan, for the super chat.
In Wales, they haven't done that, so everyone's taxes are going up.
And then the second, mending the trading relationship
and the second thing we'll do for you, for all those people like you who are self-employed and others in small businesses, I want to abolish your national insurance so that you have more financial security. Now, I'm the person that has made sure that we have good relations with Europe. You can all see that.
He's not
and we will
mentioned
continue to do so.
No, we don't.
The best way I can help your small business
and the
more
trade barriers
hundreds of thousands of others like yours is to continue to cut your taxes, because that's how we'll give you financial
security.
No,
that's not. We need to sell stuff to pay the fucking taxes on it, you arsehole.
£46 billion has just been spent in the last minute without saying where that money is coming from. That money on national insurance is used for our NHS and for our pensions. So, Prime Minister, if you're going to cut that money, that national insurance, those £46 billion, is it the NHS or is our pensioners that are going to pay for it?
So far, neither of you have answered Julie's question, which is about how we can mend our broken trading relationship with Europe.
Let me address that, because the Prime Minister says, I think he's just said the economy is all very well, going very well. I don't think millions of people across the country feel it's going very well. I think they think it's going very badly, and it's hitting them. But Julie, in relation to the EU, I did vote to remain. I campaigned to remain.
Sunak
but we
scoffing.
left. We've left the EU. We're not going back to the EU. But I do not accept that we can't get a better deal than the one that we've got, because too many businesses are in the position you're in, which is, you know, you put yourself into your business, you put your money into your business, you take huge risks for your business, and I think you should be supported. So we want to arrange to get a better deal in trade relations with the EU. I think Boris Johnson botched it. He just wanted to say he could get a deal across the line. So we can get a better deal. I think a trading deal. I'd also like a better deal on research and development, where I think if we work together, it would be better for the country, and a better deal when it comes to security and defence, particularly in light of what's happened in Ukraine.
The key thing for Julie is the trade part. So I want to ask Rishi Sunak,
could we
get a better... Sorry, I'm just going to go back to the question. Could we get a better trading deal with Europe?
You know what? You might be able to. But do you know what the price of it will be? It will be free movement of people. And that's what Keir Starmer's not being straight with you about. They might be able to sit down with the EU, and the price of anything, and I know because I've sat across them for the last 18 months, negotiated the Windsor Framework for Northern Ireland, actually got us into the Horizon programme for R&D. All the things he's talking about involve accepting
you were the knobheads who took us out.
Free movement by the back
You
door.
took us out of Horizon
at this election. Right? If you want free movement to come back, we had Steve's question at the beginning about borders and migration.
Stop lying.
Right? That is the price of any deal like that with the EU.
Oh, God, they're fear-mongering lies. I can't wait till I never have to see your stupid, ugly, rat face ever again, Rishi Sunak. You are a world's biggest, irredeemable C unit right now. Thanks very much to David Ellis, member Brexit, vote out
Perhaps the EU will ask for freedom of movement in return for what you want.
We'll negotiate.
We're not rejoining the single market or the customs union, and we're not accepting freedom of movement. But I'm not a defeatist. I'm not
migration in any form.
Please let me finish answering the question. I'm not a defeatist like the Prime Minister who says to Julie, bad luck. That's as good as it gets. You'll have to go along with the problems you've got, however hard that is for you. I'm not in that. I'm not going to say to you, Julie, there's nothing I can do to help you, or to other people in the same position. I'm going to say, I know we can get a better deal than the botched deal that we've got, and I'm going to go out and fight for it. Not going to have freedom of movement come back, not going to go back into the EU, but I'm going to fight for a better deal so you can trade more easily across Europe, so you can succeed, and our economy can succeed, because I believe in our country.
So in the 18 months I've had the job, I've negotiated with the EU for the Windsor Framework, restored the government in Northern Ireland and strengthened our union, made sure that we are part of the Horizon scheme on positive terms.
Your
welcomed
lot
by the
took us
entire
out of
research community or universities. I've got a track record of doing those
Leap
deals.
Shin, if you don't want me to talk over it, watch it on the BBC. Don't watch it here and then bitch about me bloody talking, all right?
He's not being straight with you. It's magic's some good thing for us, and they won't want something in return, right? It's just, again, you're taking people for fools. They've been crystal clear. The price of any of those things is greater migration.
He's been crystal clear. I've got to change me crystal clear. Because it's usually absolutely clear, but he's now saying crystal clear. I'm going to have to update that.
Yes, but I think it's very important.
Hey, hi, Ollie.
You're very clear the lines you won't cross. And I've just set out the lines that I won't cross. But I'm not a defeatist like the Prime Minister. And nor will I say to Julie, I won't insult Julie by saying it's all fine, everything's working, everything's great. Part of the problem we have with this Prime Minister is that his lived world is millions of miles away from the lived worlds of individuals across the country, the businesses and the families that they're trying to support. There's a massive gap. That is a problem.
But again, you just won't rule out. Will you
He's not getting much in the way of applause. I'm telling you, this is a very biased audience.
No, I don't. But I would say this, that migration, lawful migration, is at record numbers under this Prime Minister. He's actually the most liberal Prime Minister we've ever had when it comes to immigration. The numbers have gone through the roof. They're actually far higher than they were when we were in the EU. So I really don't think you can start lecturing other people about higher migration. They've never been as high as they are on your watch.
Yeah, what I can do is point out the choice for everyone at this election.
Be Sam's doing interpretive dance. Okay, let's do an interpretive dance.
The number of visas we've issued is down by 30%. Net migration is forecast to halve in just the next 12 months because of the measures I've taken, because it was too high. But I've been Prime Minister for 18 months, now it's coming down sharply. Right? That's a progress we'll continue if I'm your Prime Minister, and we'll have a legal cap in Parliament to guarantee the numbers keep falling after that. Now, if Keir Starmer's your Prime Minister, you won't get any of that, because he opposes those changes. He won't have a legal cap on migration, and it will go up. Right? So that's the choice for your legal migration. Continue the progress we've made under me. It's forecast to half. Legal cap in Parliament.
Weird visioning as he goes along. He's making it up as he goes along.
And in here...
Actually, hang on.
Our next question... No,
love you, ginger gobshite. Thanks, Joe Lefty Boza.
Just get BBC verified to check that. That's no problem.
They're already at work.
Thank you.
Our next question is from Tasneem Zahra.
It feels like universities in the UK are churning out students year on year.
Yeah, just start again, because we didn't hear the beginning. Just start your question again.
I'm in my 20s, and it feels like universities in the UK are churning out students year on year. Yes. Young people like myself have lost hope for if they will ever get a good job or buy a home.
Yes.
Many of my peers are leaving the UK and going to countries like Australia or Dubai. What would you do to make me stay in the UK?
Thank you, Tasneem. And this is going to be the last question and set of answers. Keir Starmer, what would you do to make Tasneem stay in the UK?
Ensure that we've got good, well-paid, skilled jobs here for you and other young people who I do think have been let down in recent years of government, and make sure that we build the houses necessary to ensure that the dream of home ownership lives again, because at the moment it's been killed under this government. The average age for young people to get a house is in their 30s now. I think it should be in their 20s, and if we have 5 more years of this government, it'll go up to the 40s. But we've got to build more houses, 1.5 million houses across the country. That means tough decisions about planning and where those houses are going to be, but we also need to deal with the very high rents that young people are often paying. So many say to me, I'm paying more in rent than I'd actually pay on a mortgage, a huge proportion, but I can't save for the mortgage deposit that I need.
Paying for someone else's house.
Have a low mortgage deposit scheme in place to allow young
landlords
people to get on the housing ladder. But we've got to build the houses, 1.5 million houses. The Prime Minister's taken down the targets for house building. They're going off a cliff, sinking, and that is taking down with it your dreams and the dreams of young people across the country who can't get the job that they want. Very often, if they've been to college or university, are returning back home. We have to give them the future that they deserve. That means that we have to go out with our manifesto for growth, for wealth creation, and seize the opportunities of the future. Other countries are doing this. I think we should be in the race for the jobs for the future. I think we could win that race. But also roll up our sleeves, start building the houses that are necessary to make sure that you can afford to buy a house in your 20s, not as it currently is in your 30s. That's the tragedy of the last 10 years. And it'll simply go up if we have 5 more years of the current government.
OK, Rishi Sunak, Tasneem's question.
Everyone who's had the opportunity to own their own home remembers what it feels like when you get the keys to your first flat, and it's an incredibly special feeling.
That happened to you when you were what?
Where all young
16,
people can aspire to that
14,
and realise that
12.
ambition. It's a very special thing. I know it's too hard. Of course, it's become too hard to buy your own home. I've got 2 very practical, specific things
under
that
your
we will
shitty
do
Tory government,
which will help make it easier. The first is to reintroduce a new form of Help to Buy. You may remember this. It means that you won't have to save for the entire deposit, just 5%, and then you'll be able to get a Help to Buy loan from the government, which covers another 20%. So that potentially can save you tens of thousands of pounds. And the second thing that we will do is effectively abolish stamp duty for first-time buyers. The vast majority of first-time buyers will abolish stamp duty.
That's already effectively happened.
Those are 2 very practical
just bringing
things
something back
that will
in. That's
save
already
you thousands
a thing.
of pounds. Now, the reason that's important is when I talk to people like you, the
Thanks,
most important
Malik.
thing they tell me is, how can you help me with the
Thanks for the super chat.
Because actually, I'm probably OK and into a decent job, and I can probably afford the mortgage. Right, actually similar to my rent, but what I can't do is save up for the deposit in time.
Tasneem's question was also about jobs.
Your first flat was £10,000 a month, Rishi. Good point.
By doing Help to Buy and abolishing stamp duty,
£20,000 a month.
We will massively be able to speed up how
didn't have
quickly
Sky
you can get on
TV.
the housing ladder and fulfil that dream of owning your own home. I think it's incredibly important. And as I said, I don't want to give you waffle. 2 very specific things: Help to Buy, abolish stamp duty. Neither back.
I'm not going to give you waffle. He says after waffling
so again,
for 3
there's a
minutes.
very clear choice for you, because if he's your Prime Minister, stamp duty for first-time buyers is going up. Right? That's what the plans are. If he's your Prime Minister, stamp duty for Again, we're back to the welfare debate. I'm happy to have that again. You don't think there's a penny to be made from welfare savings? I do, but there we go. The stamp duty and first-time buyer relief for you, help to buy, help you get on the housing ladder.
Oh, so you're talking about more austerity. More welfare cuts equals more austerity.
Prime Minister, the money isn't there. The Chancellor, not me, your Chancellor said
the money's been spent. At all.
You can't fund things from nothing. The money has been spent. And this is why, if we go on for another 5 years...
I'm afraid there is no money.
Exactly where we are now or in a worse place.
Ivan, thank you very much for
We have to turn the page
like Birmingham Council, which are bankrupt and everyone's taxes have been hiked up.
And that means building those 1.5 million houses, and that's what we're determined to do with a strong plan behind it. Already talking to the partners who will build those houses with us, because I'm absolutely determined that every single young person in this country under a Labour government will feel that the future is better for them. For my parents, it comforted them, even though they had tough times.
California
as parents, they didn't have a lot of money, but the thought, the idea that it would be better for their children comforted them and made their lives worthwhile. We've lost that, and we have to get it back, because in the end, the future is about our children and young people. We have to build a country, rebuild a country that is fit for them to live in and to absolutely realise all of their aspirations and their dreams. And I'm determined that we will do that.
That was a much better response than Rishi Sunak's.
Tasneem, your question is fundamentally the reason I got into politics. Right?
Is
My
it?
grandparents
I thought it was
emigrated
for
to
the
this
money.
country with very little. Two generations later, I have the enormous privilege of standing here as your Prime Minister.
Very little. How did you get into Winchester then?
It would be possible in any other country, and that's why
it's not possible now, mate. It's not possible now, is it?
To our country for what
Is
it's done
it?
for me, and I'm in politics to make a difference.
People are
to
coming
make
here
people's
now.
Lives better. And that
They're not going to send their
starts with
kids to
young
Winchester,
people, making
I
sure
don't think.
you have the opportunities you need to succeed in life, whatever you want to do, wherever you live. That's a type of country
Your party
I believe
have
in.
literally
And when you
taken
get that
away
job, when you work
opportunities
hard,
from
I want
me
you to keep
and
more of your
everybody
hard-earned
I
money,
know.
Decide how to spend it for yourself. I believe in a society that's
You scummy
aspirational.
rat
That's
man.
why I want to cut your taxes. It's not just a technocratic thing.
I want to cut your taxes.
He
wants to cut the taxes. He just can't.
Thank you very
and
much.
That's what I'm in this to deliver for you, and that's what I will do as your Prime
And
Minister.
he got in an extra deliver right at the end.
That was the final question of the evening. In a moment,
I think we got through the whole bingo card tonight.
And Clive Myrie over
God,
in
no.
the spin room for
No.
some more analysis. But
The
before we
spin
leave you
room.
from here,
God.
Rishi Sunak and Keir
Piss off,
Starmer
smug BBC.
are going to have 30 seconds each to leave you with a final thought. And the order in which they will speak was decided earlier by a coin toss. First to speak is going to be Rishi
His
Sunak.
parents sacrificed for that, yeah. I'm sure
I
they
understand why you're frustrated
did
with
have
our
Sky
party.
TV.
With me, I get it. But this is not a by-election.
did. Frustrated with him.
It's a choice with profound consequences for you
I
and
get it
our
why
country.
everyone hates me.
And
Yeah.
before you make that
So
choice,
why don't you just take the hint?
what
Fuck
a Labour
off.
government would mean.
Yeah, it'd be
Can
brilliant.
you afford to pay at least
economy will
£2,000
double.
more in tax? And
Our
why
taxes
won't
will
Keir
go down.
Starmer be straight with you
He's done it again.
about what he wants
He's done
to
it
do?
again.
And if you are not certain about Labour,
He's
don't
just said it.
surrender
He just
to
said
them.
it.
Don't
Just
vote
surrender.
for any other party.
Surrender.
Vote Conservative.
Surrender to the...
It's a lie. And
Thank
he's been
you very
told
much.
not to repeat
And
that
this
lie, and
is-
he's just done it.
And this is your closing statement, Keir Starmer. Thank you.
My message to you is simple. If you want your NHS back, you have to vote for it. If you want a growing economy, you have to vote for it.
That'd be nice.
If you want more police on our streets, more teachers in our schools,
Yep, I
you
want
have
that.
to vote for it.
Yep.
If you want to end 14 years of chaos and rebuild our country, then
14
that power is
years.
in your hands. On July the 4th, vote change, vote Labour.
Thank you very much.
We also got a change in there as well. Yep, I think we did the whole bit. I think we did all of the
Brings to
bingo
an end
card on
this
that one.
last head-to-head debate of the election campaign. Thank you very much to our audience, especially to those who asked questions, but you've all been a really important part of this. And thank you also to the two contenders for Prime Minister. This is the last time you're scheduled to appear together in this way
14
and to answer
years.
questions in this way. So we are grateful to both of you for taking part. Thank you very much.
Beaten by a lettuce. And as always,
And the two men there, Sir Keir
Deliver.
Starmer and Rishi Sunak, the Prime Minister, shaking hands with our colleague Michelle
God.
Hussein after an hour and 15 minutes of
no,
clashes
I'm sorry,
and
I'm just going to have
claims.
to turn down that voice. It's grating. through my soul, I tell you. Laura Kunsberg there, being privately educated and posh. Okay, so that was fun. If your idea of fun is, I don't know, smashing up some windows and rolling in the glass. Thank you very much for bearing with me on that. I'm sorry if I upset some people by shouting too much, but that's... I would have thought people would get the sort of hang of these watch parties by now, because that's what tends to happen. And for those who like me shouting on their behalf, I will continue to do so into the future. And talking of continuing to do so, so tomorrow night, we're going to be doing Quagglebox, the question time special, and then in the wee small hours, we're going to be doing a watch party for the Trump-Biden debate. So if you want to join us for that, you are very, very welcome to do so. And also, finally, we have now got 12 people together to come to Northallerton with us tomorrow and deliver these leaflets saying you have a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to put Rishi Sunak in the bin. Put him in the bin, and we're going to be delivering them to hopefully over 2,000 houses. So if you would like to join us in that, there's a pint in it for you. If you are interested, please get in touch via grahamdavidhughes.com. There is a form at the bottom of the page. Let us know, and we'll give you the details of where we're meeting, and we'll have maps and things like that, and we'll tell you where to go and give you loads of leaflets, and you can go and deliver, and then deliver, and then after that we'll be meeting up, and we'll buy you a drink. So that sounds good to you. Get your ass to Northallerton tomorrow. Well, first of all, message me. It's on the East Coast Main Line. So if you are on the East Coast Main Line or you live in North Yorkshire, we'll see you there. Otherwise, you can get in touch via the Discord server. But if I haven't replied yet, maybe send me also a message on grahamdavidhughes.com. Right, I've got to go now. I'm afraid I can't stay any longer. But Paul says I'm shouting here. Oh, for God's sake. Not the BBC Tory Minster. Says it ain't easy being wheezy. Water flowing underground. Once in a lifetime. That's a little reference there to the song by the Talking Heads. Thank you very much. I wanted to have, when they were talking about like no enthusiasm, I wanted to have like a little thing that came up and saying I've got no enthusiasm for burgers or computers, just to see if anyone got that connection, but I don't know if you would. Ivan says, never stop shouting, Graham. I do it too. It's all the Tories' fault. Yeah, I used to be quite chill. before this 14 years of horror, of sadism, of austerity, Brexit, the response to the COVID pandemic. It's just, yeah. My shield at your backs, badgers, says one angry pagan. Here's our little badger. Badger. So anyway, right. Phil will be here in the morning at 9:30. Obviously, I'm going to Northallerton, but I'll try and be in the chat. I might be driving at that time. But hopefully I'll see you there. If not, Quagglebox tomorrow at 8 o'clock, followed by, I think it's like 2 o'clock in the morning or something. We'll be doing the Trump-Biden debate. And don't worry, I will have a graphic to put over Trump's disgusting, horrific, mahogany puke face, because I don't want to have to see him, and I really don't want to have to hear him either. But a trauma shared is a trauma halved. Is it? Is that the expression? I don't know, something like that. But in any case, thank you so much for the super chats. Thanks for sticking with us. And until next time, I'll say give us a like on the way out. Go feed the algorithm. And hello, good evening, welcome, and goodbye.